Hello and welcome to our Lakeside chat. We are David Wofford and Katie Noonan, co-chairs of the Rotary Nature Center Friends. And we're so happy that you can join us tonight.
As we begin our program, it is important for us to acknowledge that we are on stolen land, that Lake Merritt is part of Ohlone territory. We hear now from Corinna Gould, spokesperson for the Confederated Villages of LaShawn and co-founder of Segura Te Land Trust.
Good afternoon, relatives. My name is Corinna Gould. I am the spokesperson for the Confederated Villages of LaShawn. We are here today at what most folks think of as Lake Merritt. We are in the territory of Huichin. Huichin is actually a territory that encompasses 6 Bay Area cities: Oakland, Berkeley, Alameda, Emeryville, Albany, and Piedmont. And so this is a place that my ancestors have been since the beginning of time. And this was a place of abundance. I'm so happy that people from all walks of life that now come into our territory can enjoy this beautiful place that my ancestors have enjoyed since the beginning of time. My relationship to the land that I have been born to, raising my children and grandchildren here, has been to tell the story, the truth of what happened on this land before other people came here. I'm hoping that as we begin to learn these lessons of fires in California, the pandemic that's happening, that human beings come back to living in reciprocity with the earth.
Who would have thought that Lake Merritt would become national news, or would get its own citywide survey, or its own city town halls? Our 2 speakers tonight are environmental stewards of the lake for the long haul. They have dedicated themselves to sustainability and science stewardship of the lake for both the wildlife and for the people encircling it. In honor of Earth Month, tonight we present Dr. Richard Bailey of the Lake Merritt Institute and Ms. Vanessa Pope of Mudlab. And I would like to say up front, we also want to give thanks to the San Francisco Elks Lodge number 3, which has supported our video productions and has been very generous also in giving us materials for environmental education at Lake Merritt. Our first guest.
Katie,
yes.
Is that an Elks Club t-shirt you're wearing?
Oh, it is. Yes, it is. It's an Elks t-shirt. Thanks for pointing out. So, without further ado, our first guest, Doc Bailey, as he is often known, founded the Lake Merritt Institute in 1992 and served as its director until he retired in about 2015. He's currently on the board of directors. For many years, he was known as the Lake Keeper until someone claimed copyright infringement and he became the executive director again. Dr. Bailey is a poet and a hands-on fixer of fountains and has many wonderful things to share with us tonight. So if you're ready, Dr. Bailey, I would like to hand off the microphone to you so that you can tell us about Lake Merritt and the Lake Merritt Institute.
Welcome to Lake Merritt. Of course, this is an urban tidal lagoon, the jewel of Oakland, the oldest wildlife refuge in the nation, and home to birds, sharks, shrimp, and people. Lake Merritt is 140 acres of water. The distance around the shoreline is about 3.4 miles, and it's only 8 to 10 foot deep. It's not deeper in the middle. It's kind of flat at the bottom. It's not a V-shaped bottom. And it's a saltwater environment, marine environment, same as saltwater. I'm representing the Lake Merritt Institute here, and this, of course, is a nonprofit founded in 1992, but it's supported by people like you and the city of Oakland. The lake, however, is yours. It doesn't belong to anybody. It doesn't belong to the city of Oakland. It's a public resource that belongs to you, I, and everyone else. So the title of this is How People Affect Lake Merritt. A little bit of history first about water quality. A long time ago, the sewers and storm drains weren't separated, and the storm sewage went right into the lake, but they were separated and made water quality a lot better. And we used to have a lot of algae, and they used to use herbicide. Well, it got better when they replaced that with mechanical harvesting. Lately, though, we don't have much algae, and we don't even need the mechanical harvesting anymore. In 1997, the Lake Merritt Institute started trash removal, and our first storm drain filter, we'll see one in a minute, was installed in 2001. So here's a little bit of history. 1897, the channel to Lake Merritt to the Oakland Inner Estuary was about a quarter-mile wide at its narrowest. That was filled in. So you see here, the brown is all fill, and that poor channel is so narrow you can throw a stone across it now. What that means is the tidal flow in and out of the lake is greatly restricted. It's like trying to fill a bathtub with a straw. You can't fill it up very much before the tide turns around and goes back out. So what do you see when you walk around Lake Merritt today? People jogging, lovers, boat rides, the animals, of course, artists that come to document all this. It's a beautiful place, but take a closer look. What's the reality? This is the inside of a storm drain, but you've never seen one. You're looking at the trash that's washed into these pipes underground. We walk over them every day. Storm drains are right below our feet. And this is what comes off the streets into, when it rains. Where does the rain go? The horrible portal. We all seen these, the curb inlets on the streets, and they convert litter to stormwater pollution. This is the other end of the horrible portal, the other end of a storm drain. One of them are coming out right in Lake Merritt, like a cannon aimed at Lake Merritt. And the water and the trash comes from what's called a watershed. And you can see in this drawing here, everything inside the red line there flows downhill from the hills, darker colors, to the lighter colors, down to Lake Merritt. Here's another version of that. Here's a map. And you can see the green there, that's the Glen Echo Creek watershed. And the pink are some other creeks. Where the creeks are shown in blue, they're still above ground. But when they turn red on the map, they're put underground. And as you can see, most of them have been put underground. Here's a little song about a watershed here. We'll get the music in a minute. And when it starts, you're going to see a blank screen. So what I want you to do, don't panic, just listen.
Yeah, it begins up by the cemetery, I think. The Glen Echo watershed begins up by the cemetery. And it keeps right on going without regard for deer or storm drains. Somehow this watershed is like an old woman with a bad memory and a shopping basket, tolerated and forgotten. We're in the urbanized area, that's the idea. Down on the pavement, in the streets. This watershed, bulldozed, divided, held like a crucifix in a death hand. This watershed bought, resold, bought again, and sold again. The war is long over. Indians are all but gone. Wildlife is barely hanging on. And now real estaters, subdividers, landlords, freeway engineers, arguing this is their land, and I walk on it a while, live on it, out there near the Claremont Country Club, where I see young men washing SUVs on the street. And I think, too, of trash cans overflowing, cigarette butts and plastic bags. To get your hold on the land, sometimes it's best to return to the shopping centers to see the parking lots, streets, and sidewalks. Now, I'm sure you've seen these same paved areas everywhere, and when it rains, the water runs off like a flood amidst the neon lights, banks, supermarkets, jewelry stores, and boutiques. And you know how those look. They do look good, as if you could spend all that money. Have a glass of wine and drink away the bad world. Then it's best to return to the open creeks, the same confined, half-buried creeks, stale and almost lifeless, with the young city inspector walking through, scared and looking for trouble. And the street still littered. It has an edge that already mixes with heavy metals and grease. You gotta be strong in the streets to ignore this, and ignore the runoff, and ignore yourself. With those regulations on the books and their papers with the signatures and their best management practices, Hell, who needs a storm drain filter? 125 years ago, there used to be a forest with clear creeks and permeable soils. The sun seemed warmer then, although this probably wasn't true. Now they take their fast food outside and walk down the street, and the wrappers lay there in the gutter, waiting to be washed downstream. And you look around, and you look around, and you no longer see any creeks or redwood trees. And the water's flowing dirty now, all the way down to the bay.
So that's what urban runoff is. A few facts about urban runoff. 7 square miles drain from Oakland and Piedmont, drain into Lake Merritt through 62 storm drain outfalls. You see them as you walk around the lake. What flows in a storm drain flows out. It's not treated, with the exception of 5 storm drain filters and a few inlet filters. And we'll see these in a minute. So much trash comes in. Well, you can see here monthly totals, 1998 to 2008. And we get most of our trash in the rainy months because the rain washes it in. The red shown here on your screen. Between 3-4 inches of rain, typically, unless we're in a drought. And in the yellow months, maybe a few tenths of an inch. And if you look at the middle column, when it rains, we get 3,000 to 5,000 pounds of trash we collect, take it out of the lake. But in the summer, it's 1,000 to 2,000 pounds of trash. So it's rain that brings water to the storm drains. Not so much this year, but typically it does. And if you graph this data, you'll see the two curves match. They follow each other. More rain in the winter, more trash. Less rain, less trash. It's not just trash. Oil, anything on the streets, oil, grease can come in, like you see here. This is paint, and it's coming from a storm drain in Lakeside Park. So somebody didn't know that that drain they poured the paint into comes right out in Lake Merritt. And this drain here by the columns area, the Embarcadero, that's probably soap coming out, people washing cars, restaurants dumping soap from their parking lots. And it's so bad that in 1998, the US EPA declared that Lake Merritt is officially an impaired body of water, legally impaired, for 2 reasons, trash and also low oxygen. So in 2009, the Water Quality Control Board required cities, including Oakland, to reduce trash by a certain percentage. And by next year, 2022, there is to be 0 trash coming out of the storm drains. If these requirements are not met, there could be penalties as high as $25,000 a day. So this is our net, and you can see kind of trash that we pick up, but we don't find many styrofoam cups anymore, not as many plastic bags. And the reason is that Oakland, thank goodness, banned a lot of styrofoam takeout containers and plastic bags. And you can see the dip here when that happened. This is 2005 to 2019. The lower numbers of trash are drought years. In the 1 year we had a wet spring. You can see that blip. When the plastic bag ban was passed, there was a drop. So overall, over the last 15 years, we're picking up less trash. So we're winning the battle, but we've got a long way to go. And this is one of our worst problems right now. We haven't made much of a dent at. These needles washed in right by Grand and Harrison Street. And this is not a one-time event. Whenever it rains, especially the first flush in the fall, we get used hypodermic needles. The solution to this is something called a storm drain inlet filter. You can see here, they fit in right underneath the storm drain. This is just not a particular type of model, but a generic one. And they catch stuff, anything down to a quarter, half of an inch. And then you come along and you clean out that, and it doesn't go to Lake Merritt. And trash is bad because it kills. This rubber band may have killed this grebe. 160 kinds of marine species are known to eat plastic, eat trash. They can't tell the difference between plastic and food. So if you want to help, please volunteer. Volunteers come to clean up Lake Merritt with the Lake Merritt Institute every Tuesday and every Saturday. You need to call the Institute if you haven't volunteered before. We'll give you a little bit of training so you know to stay safe with COVID, and you can work with other volunteers, and it's fun. Come on out. This is one of our 4 U cleanup boxes. You can see we've got nets, barrels to put the trash in, the bags to go in the barrels, and clean gloves. St. Paul's School, the 6th grade, they come out typically every week when there's not COVID going on. And this is how we do it. We just scoop up the trash with the nets. And you can see the difference here in these 2 photos, before and after. We really can make a difference. You can make a difference. Up on that graph there, you see the bump of trash collected on Earth Day. We had a lot of volunteers. We've got an Earth Day coming up. Please sign up. Lost something? We may have found it. Here's a small sample of some of the things we find in Lake Merritt. Now, I promised you a storm drain filter. This is one. It's about 4 feet across in diameter. The water comes into it. Anything larger than about 1/4 inch is trapped, and the water goes on clean to Lake Merritt. So we've got about 5 of these in the Lake Merritt watershed. They're very expensive. You can't just put them anywhere, but they use no energy. You clean them out with a vacuum truck. The city maintenance crews come out and do that. And the other devices we could use are storm drain inlet filters like we saw, and also nets like we can see here. On the left, that storm drain outlet is not filtered. On the right, these are the kind of nets that could be installed at the mouth of Glen Echo Creek. So a couple thousand acres of our watershed could flow through these nets if these nets were installed right by the Veterans Memorial Building. So a proposal has been made to the city. Initially, it was rejected because of concerns about flood control. But these nets are actually designed to collapse in the event of a 100-year flood. So I think this is the way to go to avoid penalties in 2022 if trash is still coming into the lake. A little bit of review. Storm drains are not sewers. Sewers are treated. Most storm drain outfalls are not. And one more reason to keep trash out of the lake, the Oak Nest monster. But our biggest problem is not lack of oxygen or not urban runoff or pollution. It's ignorance. So you can help join the Lake Merritt Institute. We're trying to educate people. There's our website, www.lakemerrittinstitute.org. There's our email, lmi@netwiz.net. And come and join us. We'll see you around the lake. And here's a little bit of closing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bailey.
Take a picture with your cell phone.
I also put the email in the chat, and you can also go to lakemerrittinstitute.org and get the phone number and the email to contact Director James Robinson, who will tell you how to get involved in lake cleanups.
Thank you, Thank you, Dick Bailey of the Lake Merritt Institute, for that wonderful and informative presentation. And thank you to our viewing audience for joining us. We really appreciate having you here with us this evening. We're really excited to be here talking about trash and litter and its impact on Lake Merritt and some of the main things that are being done to address that. Our next speaker, Vanessa, founder and director of Mudlab, which is a zero waste grocery outlet and cafe on Grand Avenue. I met at Lake Merritt a couple of years ago, I guess now, and before she arrived with her program on the shores of Lake Merritt. But she had, even before she started that operation, she had gotten involved with organizing community and volunteers to pick up trash along the shores of Lake Merritt. And this evening she'll share about that operation and the operations of Mudlab. So thank you all so very much for joining us for our program. And if Vanessa's ready, we'll bring her right along. Are you ready?
I'm
Right.
ready. Thank you so much, David. And thank you,
Thank
Katie,
you.
for organizing. I think I'm gonna start by sharing a video, if that's okay.
Hi, my name's Vanessa, and welcome to Mudlab. Come on in. So we are a zero waste cafe and grocery store. This is where we have signups for our monthly lake cleanup. We do a monthly lake cleanup with about 40 to 50 people, and then we do smaller cleanups in between that are just sort of 1, 2, maybe 10 people if we're lucky. We keep the supplies for lake cleanups right over here. Some of these supplies have been generously donated by the City of Oakland, and some of them have come from other volunteers. We also do CSA boxes, so people can pick up a CSA box from Mandela Partners here. Our whole model is on reuse and refill. So we ask people to bring their own jars, and they can refill on bulk cleaning supplies just to reduce plastic waste. So far, we estimate that we've reduced about 700 pounds of plastic waste from entering the landfill. Here we have a few more zero waste supplies, just for people to kind of replace what they're already using with something that is reusable. And we also sell sort of various home goods that people donate to us. But the most important part of Mudlab is our reusable mug system. So we ask people to bring their own mug, and we provide a discount every time someone brings their own reusable mug. We have some here if you forget for $1 to $5 sliding scale. We also often give them out for free. And our mission is really to reduce the amount of trash ending up in Lake Merritt, and so we'd like for everybody to eventually bring their own mug. So that's Mudlab. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you soon. 440 Grand Avenue.
So basically, the way that Mudlab was started was that I was running a lake cleanup group, and we were running the lake every day, and we kept picking up the same kinds of trash. It was like food and beverage trash. It turns out about 67% of the trash that ends up in the oceans and waterways is from restaurants. And so we started to approach restaurants. We actually approached Hayden Hill Cafe. That was the first one that we approached to see if they wanted to go zero waste, and they said no. And then we found Perch, and Perch said, yes, we will go zero waste. And then Perch, when the pandemic started, decided that they weren't going to stay in business. And so we were able to work out with the landlords to take over the former Perch space and turn it into a zero waste cafe. And then we also, brought on grocery items a little bit after that. So basically, our mission is to provide sustainability, and we try to do it at affordable prices. So we keep our prices what we hope is affordable to all guests. We also have a discount if you bring your own reusables. We give away free food every week, and we give away free coffee to people who can't afford a cup of coffee, because we want to try to make sustainability inclusive and welcoming to everyone. We organize the lake cleanups because I personally think that all businesses should try to give back in that way. and it's how we started, and so it makes sense to continue doing them. And then we try to have products only from local sources, so local artists and local producers. For instance, we carry Strauss milk and eggs from Petaluma and that sort of thing. Yeah, so we're located right across the street from Lake Merritt. This is sort of repetitive, this slide, so I'm going to go over it quickly. But basically, if you ever want to come and clean up trash with us, we do it once a week on Saturdays at 9 a.m. And then we have sort of a larger cleanup every second Saturday. So that's tomorrow. So if you're in the area, it starts at 9 and no need to bring anything. We have all the supplies that you need. But you're welcome to bring gloves and a bag for picking up trash if you want. You get free coffee and pastries when you come to volunteer with us. Yeah, and I mean, I heard someone on social media the other day say, don't feel guilty for a supply chain that you didn't create, right? You have to eat food, and if you go to the grocery store and this is how all the food is packaged, you still need to eat. But we at Mudlab, we're trying to make it easier to eat without all of this. So all of the CSA boxes that we sell are plastic free, and then all of the shelf stable goods are also sourced and presented without the use of single-use plastics. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have seen kind of the problems that we're facing at Lake Merritt. One solution is, right, like, let's put a lot more trash cans out. But the problem with putting a lot more trash cans out is that we would just fill all those trash cans. And so we see ourselves as trying to get to the root of the problem. Like, let's not create so much trash so that we don't need all of these trash cans. Obviously, it would be useful to have trash cans that the seagulls couldn't get into, for example, because the seagulls then pull everything out, and then the waste management professionals need to then put it all back in. But that's just my opinion. Yeah, so we also go from restaurant to restaurant. For a while, I worked with an organization called Rethink Disposable. And Rethink Disposable, their entire mission is to train restaurants how to serve food without plastic. So how to serve in reusables. So if you have a restaurant that you think would be good for the program, feel free to reach out to me and we can reach out to them. But there is money for this, and there's people interested in doing it and working with restaurants to make that happen. So this is just some pictures from Mudlab. This is how we're doing zero waste right now because of the pandemic. You get a filled jar and then you bring back an empty jar, but we hope to eventually also have refill stations like any traditional refill store. And then we think of ourselves as a social business. As I said before, we have the free coffee cart outside twice a week, the free produce for neighbors who might need a produce box, and then the cleanups. And then this is just sort of how we generate income. So we have a couple of grants. We have a grant from the Altamont Education Fund and also from Stop Waste that just kind of help us get some of our programs started. But really, most of our funding comes from the sale of coffee, tea, boba tea, ice cream, things like that. This slide I'm going to skip over because it's sort of repetitive. Here are some of our partners. So Feel Good has a pickup at our location and vice versa. And Stephanie's a good friend. If you haven't been to Feel Good, I highly recommend them. So they're like a refill store with a lot of wonderful products. Urban Ore, they donate to us our reusable mugs for people who forget their reusable mugs. Rethink Disposable, who I was talking about before, Altamont Education Fund, who gave us some grant funding. And then those are just some of the products that we carry. So we have Kulfi Creamery ice cream, Boychuk bagels, House Kombucha, Proyecto Diaz coffee, all sourced in reusable containers. So our coffee provider brings us the coffee in reusable buckets, and then we give them the buckets back and we reuse them every week. So there's no plastic at any point in the supply chain. And then we're trying to work on a project now, and Tony hopefully will jump on after me and talk about this. So Eco Bricks, it's something to kind of deal with all of this plastic that we have still in the world, and we're hoping that it will help raise awareness about the plastic issue. And then our theory of change is that when people come to do a trash cleanup, then they're experiencing where their coffee cup is ending up, and hopefully that will lead them to really remembering their own reusable mug the next time. Because a lot of people come into Mudlab, visit number 9, and they're like, "Oh, I forgot my reusable again," and I'm like, "How did you forget your reusable again? You've been here 9 times." But if you don't prioritize it, then you can. So we try to incentivize people. You get a discount, you get 50 cents off every time you bring it. And we're really just trying to get people to make permanent changes in their lives because they're finally tired of seeing this trash, and they understand that their trash is, ending up in the lake. And then tomorrow, yeah, as I mentioned, we're teaming up with the Rotary Nature Center to do kind of a joint. It's going to be hopefully a nice big group. So come on out, 9 a.m. Bring your reusable mug for a free drip coffee and camaraderie. We socially distance. We do ask everyone to wear masks. And that's just a little bit of information about me. So thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate Katie and David and Dr. Bailey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vanessa. That's amazing, and your business is just a wonderful asset. I love it.
Yes, thank you, Vanessa. Thank you very much. Katie, shall we prepare to introduce? We have the next speaker coming.
We do. We have some special friends coming in from St. Paul's School. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Ready, Tony. Let's go. Thank you, Vanessa. It was wonderful.
So as we get started, I'm going to share my screen a little bit, and I actually have one of my students here with me. So if I can get Nola here, there's Nola. All right, add spotlight. Is Nola and I up on the screen? We good to go?
Hi. Yes, you are.
Awesome.
You're there. You're there. Where's Noah?
It's Pin. You see Nola?
Nola.
Hi, Nola. Yeah, we see you.
So, I mean, before we get started, I just want to say, like, after hearing Dick Bailey and Vanessa Pope, it's like I'm so honored to be part of this conversation and this part of this community, because it's really what Vanessa just ended with, and Dick was saying. It's about education, really educating our public, like as far as bringing reusables or understanding like a lot about what the lake is. And so as a 6th grade teacher at St. Paul's, one of my big things is we start out the year learning about Lake Merritt and teaching our 6th graders all about Lake Merritt. So I brought Nola here. It's our spring break, but she still wanted to come and hang out and share a little bit about what she's learned. So I'm super excited. So I made a little slideshow, and we're just going to kind of present it. Nola, you good to go?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So here we go, Lake Merritt in St. Paul.
So earlier this year, we did a mapping project where we combined art with what we had learned about Lake Merritt, and we made maps of Lake Merritt and decided what we were going to map. Like, some people did different landmarks. I chose to do different levels of salinity and different birds that showed up in different places in the lake. So the larger the circle, the higher the bird spikes, and there's different colors signaling when the birds spike. And I mapped the average salinity in a lot of areas. So the PPT stands for parts per thousand. So that's how much salt is in the water. Every week we go out to Lake Merritt and we pick up trash from the lake near the Glen Echo outfall. And we've just been collecting trash every week. And yeah.
And I had to take this picture. This is from last year, but somehow a whole U Cleanup box got into the lake. So we actually had to get the entire box out. That was a fun, all the fun things to get out of the lake, as Dick was talking about before.
So yeah, here are some pictures of us cleaning up the lake.
That was this year. Remember the day we went out there and it was raining incredibly hard?
And we found like a pile of carrots just on the dock. So yeah, we find all types of things in the lake. We found a skateboard. We found a Gucci purse that was fake. Shoes. We found multiple dead animals, scooters, phones. Yeah, like all types of stuff. Also, every week we do water testing. So we use a refractometer to test the salinity using the PPT, parts per thousand. And then we test the dissolved oxygen and the turbidity, which is like how clear the water is, and the pH.
And I'll take over from here. Been very lucky to partner with a lot of the folks that we're talking about this year. Tidal restoration near the boathouse and building pens to grow pickleweed and other tidal plants to help restore that area and the health of the lake. Partnership with the Katie and the Rotary Nature Center friends, David and Katie, and this whole what we're here for. So that's been really exciting as well. That whole area and having students down there planting and doing all of that stuff. And then, as Vanessa was just talking about, our new partnership with Mudlab. I actually met Vanessa a few years back where she was a guest speaker when she was working for Here Please, or that was the name of your organization then. And I do a whole unit around solutions of how do we brainstorm solutions to help the trash and everything around the lake. And I was like, hey, well, Vanessa's actually doing that. Let's have her come in and speak to our students. But this next project is using these eco bricks. We did an inventory. We're going to start figuring out ways like the upcycle question that Katie had earlier, or for the trivia, upcycling this trash and, make some benches around the lake is what we're kind of thinking. But I'm really excited to partner with Mudlab. But to just round up the St. Paul's connection, the work that Dick Bailey has done, the work that Vanessa has done, like it's completely part of the curriculum I teach, and that the students like Nola, and I see Declan out there, I have some other students that are here, that we are engaging with, and I am super excited to see where it keeps going, because as Dick Bailey said, ignorance is one of the biggest parts that we need to, the educating, it's a tidal lagoon. All these animals live here, all of that good stuff. So I'll stop talking, but thanks for having me, and I'll pass it.
Thank you very much, Tony, for all of that and for rounding up like that, because that's exactly the work that we do with the Rotary Nature Center Friends. From the programming with the students and the visitors to the Lake Merritt around the water and its quality, as well as the planting of native plants and removal of invasive plants, as you know, and the organizing of litter and trash removal campaigns and groups, like we have coming up this weekend for Earth Day, and as we do periodically throughout the year, I'm sure you all know. And so each month when we host these and produce these Lakeside chats, the point is to have the opportunity for the community to come together and hear more and have cross-pollination of the programs and activities that we're up to and that you and Vanessa and the Lake Merritt Institute and Dick Bailey bring. So we want to celebrate some of our other partners who aren't here, such as the Elks Club that Katie mentioned earlier, for their wonderful financial contributions, as well as the Oakland Museum, whose T-shirt I'm wearing here tonight. One of our partners in terms of communicating about the history of the area and Lake Merritt.
I would like to introduce Emily Ramirez, who's a student at Oakland Tech, who did a wonderful internship and presentation with us this spring. So Rotary Nature Center Friends has provided classroom visits, virtual classroom visits to elementary school students. And in this case, Emily, who's a senior at Oakland Tech High School, worked on a curriculum lesson as part of her senior project. And she presented it to a class in San Leandro of first graders. And it was an awesome presentation. So she's also
sorry, Katie, if I could quickly recap. Emily is a high school student who came in, she worked with a group of other high school students to develop a program that we presented, like we normally do with the Rotary Nature Center Friends, to elementary school students that we work with. And it was such an awesome program about birds, the birds of Lake Merritt, that it's amazing. And now Emily has just recently been accepted to UC Berkeley, if I may say. Congratulations.
Yes, go Bears. Yeah. Okay. So Emily, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you've done? And I was kind of interested in hearing about the carbon footprint stuff that you've been doing as well.
Yes, thank you so much, Miss Katie. I loved working with you. Hello, everybody. My name is Emily Ramirez, currently a senior at Oakland Technical High School, and I will be continuing my journey at UC Berkeley, and I'm so excited. Go Bears. Yes, thank you, everybody, for the congrats. I worked with Miss Katie on creating a curriculum around the biodiversity at Lake Merritt. And like she said, I taught it to a group of first graders in San Leandro. I had so much fun working with Miss Katie. I even got to meet her at Lake Merritt. She gave me and my group a tour of the birds, and we even got to pick up some trash that we noticed there. She also introduced me to the carbon footprint challenge that we got to work with her on. I learned a lot from this, actually. I learned how like appliances in my home, daily activities that I do really affect my carbon footprint. And since then, I have educated my family, everybody in my household, around ways that we can improve our carbon footprint. And one of my goals personally is to implement this into students, specifically students of color. I believe that if we teach them how important this is, then they will gain this appreciation for the environment the way I did when I did this activity, and then took it and brought it to my family and told them, hey, this is our carbon footprint. These are things that we do that we can improve. So, you know, I stopped purchasing like a lot of fast fashion clothing. I stopped eating a lot of red meat. I stopped using a lot of household products that were really, really like increasing that carbon footprint that I believe was really affecting me. And I think that especially implementing this in communities of color, we can improve the quality of our neighborhoods in those communities, because we are often highly affected by the environment and the effects of climate change. Yeah, thank you, Miss Katie, for bringing me in, introducing me, and I always love working with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emily. We are so proud of you.
Thank you.
Success. I know you're going to have a wonderful time in college, and you're going to do well.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you so much.
Bears.
Thank you for coming
Bears.
on short notice. Thanks so much. Okay, so now, everyone, we have time now for our audience to ask questions. And here is our protocol. We would like you to raise your hand. First of all, to type your question into the chat at any time. You could have done it earlier in the program. Raise your hand and you will be recognized to unmute yourself and ask your question to one of any of our awesome speakers tonight. Can we could we begin doing that, chat monitors?
We have Lisa Heyer's hand raised.
Can you unmute yourself, Lisa?
Yes, there I am. So I was very impressed with the students' presentations. And it got me to thinking that perhaps we have a lot of untapped potential in connecting to a lot of culturally specific and appropriate ideas about the earth and nature. I think that sometimes we talk about environmentalism perhaps from only one perspective. And, you know, I grew up in the desert, so I see the environment somewhat differently than those who grow up on the coast. But at any rate, just do you have any thoughts about how at the Rotary Nature Center or through different cleanups, we might be able to connect with perhaps members of the Asian community, different cultures from South and Central America? Just a thought, just my thoughts. So
Katie, or thank you so much, Lisa. In our work at the Rotary Nature Center, friends, we are working on that, and we're, you know, it's an evolving process. You know, we haven't talked much about color this evening. Bless Emily for mentioning people of color and the idea of including them in environmental and conservation awareness and stewardship. However, we will be talking about it in the future, so please stay with us because it's a significant part of our engagement. But specific, I wanted to say, Lisa, in regards to your question, that in terms of outreach and connection, that we continue to connect with more diverse communities in many ways, and then allow those ways to trickle over into trash and litter engagement. We continue to engage them around around bird watching or other activities, depending on what we're all engaged in at Lake. And then out of that, we connect and grow to the litter and trash collection and recycling, etc. Anyone else?
Much. Do we have another question for our speakers?
And allow for Dick Bailey or Vanessa or anyone else who's prompted to respond to any question, please.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. It's for David and Dr. Bailey. The people, the residents that live around the lake, you know, have been concerned about the trash, and we've had lots of meetings. We're worried about the bird sanctuaries being affected by the amplified music and all the trash, and, you know, selling alcohol, which decreases your inhibition to throwing trash around. But I haven't seen the Rotary or Lake Merritt Institute engaging in these discussions. And it seems like we have similar goals, a healthy Lake Merritt. And I would like to see more involvement with David and Dr. Bailey on all of the discussions about what is happening around the lake that I think is affecting Lake Merritt. My husband and I see people going into the bathroom who live in vans around the lake, in the lake, and that can't be good for the lake.
I guess I better continue here, Katie. Ellen,
yes.
Thank you so much for that. And I'll just try to quickly say here this time, and we can always follow up, that to some extent, I have been significantly involved in the conversations over the past year with the various departments and the police department, the fire department, and public works, and neighbors. Frankly, I've not worn my Rotary Nature Center Friends hat as much in that process, since I have just a neighbor and resident of Oakland. For the specific reason of how race has come up in that process, in terms of how somehow it appears that there are more Black and brown people having more drinks and throwing more trash. And so it's been, but I feel as though we've been in real good communication and involvement. And we're certainly aware. In fact, I'm on the steering committee or what have you for the Lakeshore, with the Lakeshore Neighbors leadership around organizing to address those issues and working with the city. And so thank you for the question. But the Nature Center Friends, we're totally, what we've been doing is we've been developing our position vis-a-vis from a wildlife refuge stewardship standpoint. And the way we've been, it's appearing to us is that a number of these other issues fall under the category of the overall category of the stewardship of the refuge. And so we've been trying to articulate our position with the other Lake Merritt advocacy groups in the city and Parks and Recreation in terms of the stewardship of that and our involvement. But thank you for joining us in that process.
Thank you, David. Dick Bailey here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Going back to the previous question about different cultures in Lake Merritt, one way to perhaps look at this is that a lot of the migratory birds come from a variety of other cultures, and we could maybe match the birds up with where they come from, South America, Central America, so forth, and that way we could sort of learn, well, okay, what's going on down there where this petrel came from, or where this tern came from. Regarding the next question, basically it's a homeless problem, and our little nonprofits, I mean, we try, but it's huge, and it's not going to be solved until we get rid of economic inequality and economic injustice. And Lake Merritt Institute is dealing with that as well as we can. We have discussions with the city on that, and city council members. It affects all of us, and it's going to take a while. We need to get rid of economic injustice. That's the bottom line.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank you, Dick.
So everyone, we are getting to close to 8 o'clock, and I would like to invite everybody to stay on the Zoom to continue the conversation. So we will be here until 8:30, but I'd like to finish off before people leave at 8 with some final slides to share, and thank you to people, and then we can continue the conversation. So I'm going to share, and hopefully this will work. And is it working?
Is the slide about what we're going to talk about next month, Katie?
Start slideshow from beginning.
Okay, I'm going to actually start the slideshow from the current slide.
Okay, yeah, current slide.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so I want to give special thanks, of course, to our featured speakers and to our special friends who came in and talked to us. It was a wonderful night. We could go on for hours on these topics. Want to thank Rob Lamone, our producer, media and videos, and Kirsten Furman, art and design, Janice Lord Walker, Patty Donald, and of course, and others. And then Tony Bald and his students. We're in Earth Month. And as Vanessa mentioned, there's a second Saturday cleanup tomorrow. Meet Vanessa at 9 at Mudlab. I'm not going to get to the Rotary Nature Center until 10, but I'll be there. with tools so we can clean up the Nature Center grounds with Rotary Nature Center friends. We have some wonderful shows coming up. Next month, What Makes a Bee with an Oakland native, Hong Vong, who grew up in Oakland and graduated from Oakland High in 2009, now is a geneticist, microbiologist, and bee expert. And we have somebody mentioned in chat a question about sharks. We'll have a talk about sharks and their condition in the bay, and also their relatives, the rays that are very numerous in Lake Merritt. We have a talk about mushrooms in July. So many great things are coming up. Here's Hong Vong at the old Nature Center beehive, and you can register for that now. I'll send out a link by the Eventbrite.
Katie.
Yep.
I'm not registering that our next speaker is a young person and another homegrown product of our Lake Merritt projects and stewardships.
Yes, indeed, he is. So we're very proud of him.
So yes, we would like you to come out and support this young person as he launches his career.
Young scientist, yeah. That will be wonderful. I totally agree with that. This is our mission. We have many partners in the community. We're stewards of the Lake Merritt Wildlife Refuge, and we interconnect with schools and groups interested in learning more and doing stewardship projects at the lake. And that is the end of our finale slides. And I want to thank everyone for being here. We are going to continue, and if you'd like to ask questions, I think Vanessa has had to go home and take care of her young baby, but we have Dick and we have Tony and all of us here. So please ask your questions, and we really appreciate your coming here tonight. We have a question from anyone from the chat?
I think we answered them all.
I don't think so. I saw someone asked if there are sharks in Lake Merritt. Dick Bailey, you could probably tell us a lot about that with your many years of being at the lake.
Why the water level is lower than usual other than tide?
No, sharks. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Why is the lake level really low right now?
Well, it's always low at low tide. Other than that, they may have closed the tide gates to do maintenance on the tunnels.
So those are all possibilities. We're also in a season of low tides along the West Coast. As we approach the equinox, the pull of the sun gets greater. It gets aligned at the equator more. So look forward to the next tidings. I'm going to try to give you some information about that and why we're seeing such low tides right now. Yes.
You know, I'm excited. I'm excited by the idea, Tony and Dick, of the synergy between the Lake Merritt Institute and St. Paul's and Mudlab, and to some extent, well, the Rotary Nature Center friends, Lakeside chats, and these gatherings, and the possibilities in terms of where we're at and how we're engaging. So if anyone would like to speak to that.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I just think that what you guys have done, and even in this year of COVID, when you see how we can get together even like this, I think that there's an energy of a collaboration that's really exciting, where we all love the lake, and we have loved it from different vantage points. And I see that there is a lot of projects that we are starting now that will continue to move forward. So yeah, the synergy part is real. Like I started my whole spiel is, the work that Dick Bailey's done, the work that Vanessa's done, the work that, Katie, you've done in having your student here. Like, this is a bigger community effort. So it makes me very.
So I'd like to give a shout out to our cohorts in this process, to Janice and Patty and Kirsten and Rob and Nancy and Betsy and a few others, because as you mentioned, yes, it's that kind of process and that kind of energy and creativity that we're bringing together and to bear on man, the science that we are bringing to Lake Merritt, from the Nature Center all the way up through the estuary, is amazing. And the our connection or activities with nature, we've got some really great foundations. And I guess what's before us is connecting that with more and more people.
One way to do it is many years ago, before Helveticus committed Deuteronomy, the Rotary Nature Center had a large aquarium, which they stocked with critters and things from the lake. It takes a lot of maintenance, but if anybody knows what they're doing, that would be something that would really be an attraction. In fact, I'd like to see one inside the lake chalet when people are waiting for the table. They can, oh, look, that's a pipefish. They live in Lake Merritt. Oh my God. It's going to take maybe a few $100 and some weekly maintenance, but that's something that somebody could learn something from.
I think that's a great idea. And in fact, being so close to the shore of the lake, the maintenance and the care of the animals in a tank is actually pretty easy, because you can return them to the lake and you can get lake water. There's a salinity problem because, of course, the lake varies widely in salinity. And if you have a marine organism and suddenly the lake is fresh, we have to be able to manage that. But I think that would be a great project, and it has been proposed. And hopefully that will happen in the next few years if people plan for a interpretive center inside the Rotary Nature Center building. That'd be awesome. It's a great suggestion.
Nice.
We had another.
And what about the students and their engagements and the idea of the eco bricks?
Oh yes, could someone tell us more about? Has anyone here made an eco brick?
It's a new for me. Mudlab has been providing eco bricks for us. It's just cleaning plastic and then putting it into plastic bottles, and you're using it as like building materials. So you have mortar, and you can actually build things out of them. That upcycle idea. So we were partnering with Mudlab, and then I'm having my students kind of design an idea of what, like some benches made out of actual trash that comes out of Lake Merritt. Really upcycling it and further educating around that, right? Not only having a bench, but maybe some placards that, like, this is made out of stuff that we found here. And so it's a new, I mean, Vanessa's gone, she's the eco brick expert, but I'm just kind of learning as we go along. Yeah.
If you go online and Google eco bricks, you'll find videos and examples. When I first heard about this, I thought it would be a great thing to do for Earth Day at Lake Merritt if we could have a little eco brick sculpture or anything just to kind of call attention to the trash problem. So I really look forward to what ideas students have about what to build with the bricks.
Interesting.
Janice had a question. Janice had a question a long time ago. Could you ask your question? You need to unmute, okay? Oops.
They answered it in the chat. So I wrote it in the chat and they answered in the chat, so I put my hand down. But this is an excellent presentation, just wonderful.
So what was the question, Janice? Maybe other people didn't.
No, I asked the two students. So I asked Nola, what did she want to do in the future? And she told me what she wanted to do in the future in the chat. And then I wanted to know what academy Emily came from. and she came from the Health Academy and two others. And so, of course, Health Academy, I wanted to hear about that. And I actually wanted to know what she was going to study at UC Berkeley.
Yeah, I forgot. I haven't asked her that. She's also in Joe Sen's AP Environmental Science class.
Yeah, well, it seems like she was in a lot of, yeah, she's on the mark.
Oh yeah, yeah, many talents, many talents. Let's see, more questions.
Were people able to hear Vanessa's video okay?
It was a little choppy.
It was choppy, but I got the gist of it.
Okay, okay.
It's cool with her. We can post it on our website, I think.
Oh yes, I think that'd be great. Well, it'll be on the recording that we have, but I guess it'll come up choppy on that as well.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll post it to the site.
Mm-hmm. Wow, we have a.
Thank you. I couldn't hear it either. Miss Michelle, she couldn't hear it either.
Well,
oh, that's too bad. I've heard it before. It's really, really good.
I'm looking forward to hearing it. Thank you.
So if there's time, I could try to show it on mine because we did it once and it worked really well. But I'm a little hesitant about offering my my Zoom skills at this point. But we did it once and you're laughing. It worked once really well. Oh, Janice is raising her hand. Janice.
I just, when we were picking up our trash last time, I said, oh, there's not that many needles at the lake. And I'm beginning to think that at every part of the lake, there are different kinds of trash. And because we've never found that many needles in any pickup that we've done. So it's very interesting to see, and I'm beginning to think in my head, because I think a lot about the lake, is that there's one side of the lake where they're eating and having fun, and the other side of the lake is where the encampments are, and where they're setting up their own, way of removing their trash. So I think that the Lake Merritt really needs to be studied, because we really talk about it being a jewel, and we have to get rid of the waste and assist. Like, I'm going to listen to my friend Betsy Schultz, who tells me they have to have somewhere to go. And like Richard said, it's a bigger problem, but God, this problem has to be solved.
Most of the needles come from outfalls 54, 56. So that narrows it down to a section of downtown. We know where the watersheds are. We know which storm drain filters, and the city knows too, where they need storm drain filters. There's maybe 100 or more inlets that are mainly where these needles come from.
Okay.
And we see Ellen's hand here, I believe. Ellen, if that was your hand, please.
Susan's hand also.
Oh, okay. Who, Katie?
Susan Porter has her hand up. Susan,
Hi. I used to teach at St. Paul's, and this is in response to Janice's question about where the trash is coming from. And one year, the sixth graders did a project where we took the entire watershed and we divided it up, and we got ping pong balls, and we color coded them and put numbers on them so that we would know exactly where, and the kids were dispersed within about an hour or two, and they went all into the watershed and threw the ping pong balls onto the street. So we could see how the trash came down into the lake, and they went all the way up into the hills and down and all around the lake, so that it covered the entire watershed. And it was pretty amazing how we didn't really get that many back, but we did get enough back. And one of the things that we discovered was we were able to pinpoint some. At that time, one of the problems was there were people that would put paint or soap into the storm drains, and we were able to pinpoint a exactly it was a used car dealership that was washing their cars illegally, and the soap was coming down into the lake. And the ping pong ball at that time of year, it washed the ping pong ball down into the lake, and we were able to use that ping pong ball to figure out where the soap was coming from. So it was the trash that you see at the lake is not, most of it is not generated right around the lake. It's all, it may be up on Piedmont Avenue. It can be anywhere up into the watershed, and it gets washed down. So that's one of the problems with trying to figure out exactly where it's coming from. So does that make sense? I mean, and sometimes what happens too is some of the storm drains come down at quite an angle, and so with just a little bit of water, stuff gets washed in. Others are a lot more flat. There's less of a slope, and so the trash comes down more slowly, and it kind of gets clogged there until we get a huge rain, and then that pushes that big clog, and then all of a sudden you've got like a whole lot of needles or various kinds of trash too. So it's a little bit skewed, which makes it complicated to figure out just exactly where all this stuff's coming from. So
nice, Susan. Thank you.
So do we have other hands? I raised my hand. Okay. Do we have other questions? So if not, I wanted to ask Dr. Bailey, and if we've received any information from the clean swell studies of trash coming into Lake Merritt, because this project of the California Coastal Commission, I believe, actually sorts out the kinds of trash that are coming in by type. And I have a data going back to 2010 showing that, plastics are really high. Interestingly, cigarette butts are very high. And I know that St. Paul's did a wonderful project on collecting the cigarette butts, which are not only disgusting, but they carry toxins and hormone disrupting chemicals into the lake. That it seems like the needles have definitely are something new in that amount. They're transported all over the lake by the tidal action, but they're obviously coming from somewhere upstream of outfall 56. I was wondering if we're getting information about the types of trash that is coming into Lake Merritt.
You'd have to check with James on that. I'm not there for the day-to-day. James Robinson, the Lake Merritt Institute director. Yeah.
So Rotary Nature Center Friends has done clean swell just at that little parking lot beach and around the nature center several times, and we've not found any needles, but we have found a lot of cigarette butts and liquor, beer cans and liquor bottles and stuff like that. That's been, and this has all been during the pandemic, so we were speculating that people were trying to forget their woes through substances. But it is something to look at as well as what kinds of things are coming in and where they might be coming from.
And Katie, you have to add that we see a lot of human waste. I mean, that, that's really getting to me at this point,
We did,
well,
yeah.
Specifically to that, I think, Janice, some of that is being met, that concern, via the city of Oakland, through one of their departments, developing a plan to address the impact of unsheltered people on city parks. there's been an engagement, and I hear about it from time to time while I'm with the Measure DD Coalition, but it's been a while in process and planning, and I don't have a full report. I know it has questions of removal come up, and what under what circumstances transitions and removals will occur, and the design of what those alternatives look like have seem to be the bulk of the time. And however, there is an awareness, and I don't know what they have, how they're collecting the data, but I hear discussions about the impact of like this year versus last year, and when encampments, the space between encampments, they're looking at that, but I don't have anything more definitive about what will happen and the result is, except that it's a problem that they are studying.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions and comments? More public toilets would be great.
I know that in the conversations, I've been surprised to hear that the impact, like over there where Laney College is, and they have the flea market, that the impact that people who are studying tell me isn't as bad as what I would assume as a layperson of looking at all the homeless camps that go along the estuary there. So that's one good note. But it's certainly there.
Yeah. And has been there for a long time. As I was a teacher, and I had classes come to Lake Merritt twice a week, and we ran into those same kinds of issues going back many years.
Thank you. Miss Michelle speaking. Hi. During my time of being an employee for the City of Oakland at the Rotary Nature Center, it was often found human waste was deposited inside the bird sanctuary that's been gated off. And of course, what you need to do next is like contact the police department to have them get their hazardous waste people out there. And that's the way we handled it at the time, and it's a couple of years ago, so I'm sure it's still current.
I believe that's correct, what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And actually, we are at Rotary Nature Center Friends is an adopt-a spot, and that's part of the instructions for cleanups is that if human waste is found, that it's reported and not picked up by volunteers.
Terrific.
And if your dog does it, take a plastic bag, pick it up, and put it in the trash.
And we found positively in our work with the Rotary Nature Center Friends there, caretaking, weeding, planting, and program right at the duck pond. We found that the unsheltered people kind of ring the area. They are for the most part hands off. They give it some respect for some reason. So far, so good.
I'll see you tomorrow, Katie, if I wake up.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm looking forward to trimming and making the nature center look beautiful for Earth Day.
And terrific, because I think we were supposed to meet sometime for a T-shirt prize.
Ooh, yeah, I have it for you.
Okay,
well, we'll definitely hand it off. Okay, I have
terrific
punch in my trunk of my car. I'll definitely have it with me.
Hasta mañana.
Yes.
Good night.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye bye.
Okay.
Thank
you so much, everyone, for coming. It was a great discussion. There's just so much to talk about. Big topic, and really an honor to have people who've done so much here here to talk to us tonight. Thanks so much, guys.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Katie, the fact that I see a hand on my screen, that's probably an accident, right?
No, you actually raised your hand somehow. I don't know how you managed to do that. But
that's my hand. Okay.
I think.
Great.
Okay. All right. It's late. Okay. Everybody take care. Is there any more discussion? I don't want to cut anyone off, but we will be here again next month with a wonderful talk about bees, native bees and honeybees, and the microbes that they carry and interchange, and how they evolve together and what that might mean. So I'm really looking forward to a fascinating talk by my former student, Hong Kong.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
thank you, Dick.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.